Hey everybody, welcome to episode 2 of TOKUCAST, which we probably need to rename because there's already a TOKUCAST that's been running for a long time.
What?
But they only talk about Kamen Rider and, like, Sentai shit, you know?
Should we make a play on, like, weird tokusatsu?
I thought about TOKUCAST.
I don't know what the fuck that means.
The Jeff Do method of just say it in a Japanese way
Oh.
to distinguish it. Well, we're just gonna call it TOKUCAST for now because it's not like we're competing brands or anything. I think we're fine with each other's existence. We watched Mechanical Violator Hakaider.
Yeah.
What did you think of this movie? You got a little thing in your mustache here.
Oh.
There you go.
Got some of that,
for you.
wherever the fuck those things
That's
are.
takoyaki balls.
Takoyaki balls.
Follow me on
I got some
IGTV
balls
to
in
learn
my
about
mouth.
takoyaki balls.
Yeah.
Anyway, Hakaider. By the way, this is apparently a spin-off of Kikaider. I guess Hakaider is probably a character from the Kikaider universe. Kikaider is like a classic robot manga, like android Pinocchio type story. From I want to say the manga is like old as shit. There was a few different anime series that were in like the 2000s. One of them ran on Adult Swim. I remember watching it back in the day. I remember nothing about it. Doesn't matter. This movie has no plot.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with anything, and it's definitely not like a heartwarming Pinocchio robot boy story. It's more of a fucking brutally murder everybody, and
I mean, Kikaider's fairly dark. Robot manga, shonen manga of the 60s and 70s was like, often everyone dies by the end,
Sick.
you know? But,
everyone died by the end of this.
yeah, but this was like a more... Well, it was described as a dark tokusatsu, and it is literally dark.
It is literally dark.
Most of the images are
There's
shot
lots
at
of
night.
cool guys in black costumes at night. That's like, it's aesthetic for like at least half the runtime.
Yeah, I gotta say that Toku fans are definitely a different type of person from the anime fans that I've known, because all of the people who are like hardcore Toku fans who are recommending us stuff in the comments were like, dude, you gotta hit up this guy, this what's Keita Amamiya guy, like this director. He created Garo. He's like a big character designer, did all kinds of shit that we looked through his list of works. You were impressed.
Yeah, there's good shit on there.
Yeah, I think he did some work for the Power Rangers. So the original Power Rangers.
Zero Ranger.
Yeah.
Did some stuff on that. Then he was a character designer for Kamen Rider Black, which was the greatest Kamen Rider ever.
Yeah, so we've been recommended that as well. We're trying to avoid Kamen Rider for the time being, but one of the things recommended was Kamen Rider ZO, a 45-minute movie that this guy directed in the 90s when there was no Kamen Rider coming out, apparently. When people have like a specific director getting recommended like over and over again, I usually assume that they do like deep or thought-provoking or like well-written stuff. Because that's when people in like film talk about great directors, or people in anime talk about great directors, it's gonna be like, Hideaki Anno or something like that. Like, granted, we did him on the last TOKUCAST.
We did.
This movie has almost no plot.
No.
But it's awesome.
And the plot that's there would be better if it wasn't there.
I think tokusatsu might be similar to motorcycle fandom as presented in the anime series Bakuan. In that show, they constantly insist that being into motorcycles is fundamentally stupid because motorcycles are just bad. Like, they're just not a good way of transportation, but they're cool. And so if you ride a motorcycle, it has to be because, unless you're like in a third world country and you use it as a bus. Have you ever seen those pictures of like six...
No.
kids on the back of a
I can
motorcycle?
imagine.
I've seen it in real life in the Philippines.
Oh god.
But so for the most part, people who ride motorcycles deliberately, it's because they think it is awesome. And like tokusatsu,
I don't think until right now I've ever even considered there was a reason to ride a motorcycle other than that it was cool.
Yeah.
Like, the thought never even entered my mind. Like, riding a bike for utility?
Yeah.
No.
No point. But like with tokusatsu, it's kind of similar in that like the appeal of it is that you get to look at the goofy costumes and the special effects. Like,
right.
It's not about, because if you just wanted to tell a great story, you don't need it to be tokusatsu per se. No. Like, tokusatsu is just a genre of a film of it's a style of presentation, and like you could have a great story and also all these goofy special effects and stuff, but like if you're trying to make something that appeals specifically to toku fans, the story is not the relevant detail.
I mean, as someone who's watched Daikaiju forever, it's never been about, man, I can't wait for this really interesting plot. It's always like, I'll just like be on my phone until Godzilla shows up, and then I'll watch that part because that's the part I actually give a fuck about.
So the this movie is almost nonstop action, and
there's like a 15-minute point in the middle of the movie where everything just stops for a while for no reason.
You were really whining about it. You were like, I can't deal with the talking.
It's not even that like I was whining about it. It's just like this weird we were saying the whole time, like, I love how this is just nonstop action. I hope it continues, and then it didn't.
It was a little strange because up until that point, it almost felt like an art movie, and then it feels like it kind of stops to take a breather and let you like mentally catch up, but that in turn makes it into a generic movie, like plot wise.
Yeah.
Because even though the story is always, hardly existent, at the start of the movie, it has this very strange way of metering out information, even in individual scenes, where you don't really know what the hell's going on at first, and then it slowly lets you understand what's going on. And it's because it just favors aesthetic coolness in every shot. Like, he doesn't think, how can I make an establishing shot that will make you understand what this scene is about to be? It's more like, what is the coolest shot I can open a scene with? And then, like, 3 or 4 shots later, you'll have enough information to put together what the scene is.
Understand what's going on.
So, like, a scene might open with just a straightforward shot of Hakaider on a motorcycle on the freeway. And then the next shot will just be of, like, a turret on a wall. And then that starts firing. And then we see the next shot will be Hakaider getting hit with the turret bullets. You never have the wide shot of just, like, him, like, you never have the shot of him and the place he's going to in the same shot together. You never have the shot of, like, here's how far away he is from the building. It's just like you have to piece together as the shots continue.
They do that once. That's when he goes into the final building, because he has to like scan everything. He's like, that's where the core is, and then he shoots the core and it all explodes. So that's like the one time the location is like the destination and where he is are given some context at once.
I mean, it's a while. This is a dystopian cyberpunk setting, I guess, that is like, you wouldn't know that until you're significantly into the movie.
I don't know, man. I called that from the beginning, and you were like, I don't know.
Well, because the first shots, like the first scene is just in like a nondescript underground facility where these guys are looking for some kind of treasure that is supposed to be buried down there.
Nondescript underground facilities only exist in dystopians when it comes to movies. Come on.
I thought it was going to be more of like a Resident Evil type, like the Resident
like a
Evil
horror movie?
No, just the way that scene was reminded me of, like, the look of the Resident Evil, the first live-action one.
Okay.
Like, I thought it was just, like, a big underground facility of some dastardly corporation kind of thing, which I guess it was, but, like, it was just a lot more... I mean, you have no sense of what kind of society it is until... Like, we get to a point where we find out, there's this movie takes place in a place called Jesus Town.
It's straight up Jesus Town.
And it's run by like this crazy angel guy who just he's just an authoritative presence who's holding everybody down.
Was there something in 1997 with like one-winged angels?
It was actually 95.
This was 95.
Yes.
Okay, then did Final Fantasy VII
he
rip
wasn't
off
one-winged
Hakaider?
though, was he?
He had one wing.
Michael had one wing.
They both had one wing.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Very weird.
So the bad guy, he's just like some kind of like foppish douchebag who wants everything to be beautiful and has his idea of what it means for humans to be beautiful, which is for them to basically be, just,
subservient.
Yeah, just to do what he wants, and if not, then he lobotomizes them and puts a microchip in their brain.
Pretty normal.
Makes them do whatever he wants. Like, and that's it. That is it. They establish all this as fast as they possibly can.
This happens in the middle of the movie in an exposition dump, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then it's not referenced again.
There's only one scene where they, like, show us what's going on. It's just so we can see the mechanism. Because, like, most of what is actually happening in Jesus Town is not shown to us. It is merely explained. However, there is one moment where they're explaining the process of putting the microchip in people's brains, and they show that, and that's because there's a cool machine that does it.
Right.
So it's just an excuse to show the cool machine. Otherwise, they would not have bothered, because at no other point do they. No. The only reason we know that this is even a dystopia at first is because there is a resistance movement, and there'd be no reason for there to be a resistance movement if it was all hunky-dory in Jesus Town.
Right.
But, like, I think the exposition scenes happen nearly 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, it's about halfway through.
Yeah, it literally is like...
It's not even exposition scenes. It's one-wing boss man talking to his servant who already knows all of this already, just for our sake. It takes about 5 to 7 minutes.
Almost all the dialogue in this movie is stuff that should have been known by the people. It was like at the very start when the guys are raiding the underground facility, one dude's like, "Oh, I heard there's treasure down here, and if we find it, maybe we'll make a lot of money." It's like, isn't that the entire reason you're here? Like how could you have serendipitously ended up here?
Unless
I actually, so that scene is just like Hakaider wakes up. I already posted a video on my main channel about how
it's basically Hellsing.
Hellsing straight up copied it. It's granted, it wasn't as extreme of a copy job as I thought. Like, I mean, it is like 4 images that are almost exactly the same, and there's no question in my mind that it was an influence. But
it's definitely an homage. It's nothing else. But
it's cleverly done enough where, like, in Hellsing, I would say it's likely that, you know, that Kota Hirano, when creating that scene, already had his idea of how this scene would play out, and then just thought that the imagery of this movie would be perfect for it. I don't think he structured the scene around making a reference to this movie, because it has a lot more context in the manga. In the movie, it's just like, these guys enter this room, they all open fire on this dude who's, like, in chains, and then he, like, through some real trippy cinematography, we witness him transform into Hakaider and murder all of them.
Yeah.
The main character in this is a robot.
He's a robot man.
But he looks human, but he can turn into a robot, but he is a robot. I mean,
he's a transforming hero who just happens to be a robot. It's actually similar in Kamen Rider Black. The main character, Kamen Rider Black, was a human, was turned into a cyborg, but can still transform into Kamen Rider Black.
I think in Kikaider it's the same. In Kikaider, like, Kikaider himself is a robot, and he kind of has, like, a human skin over him, I think. So it's like when he transforms, he's, like, becoming his real self, the robot, you know. And I don't know if that's necessarily the case here. It's not. There's no detail given to Hakaider's character. All we know is that the bad guy built him.
Yeah, the first way you find out he's a robot is that he gets shot in the head, and you can see robot parts underneath his, like, forehead,
and that's when he transforms, and it's an awesome transformation.
It's a super sick transformation.
So this movie aesthetically is amazing.
It's pretty dope.
Every shot looks awesome, but, like, it's mostly the framing, and, like, the effects, while entertaining, are terrible. Like,
yeah, well, 95.
So, like, all the outfits are awesome, all the, like, sets and props are awesome, and the way that they're shot are awesome, but, like, the actual, like, effects are often a little weaker, and
that's just tokusatsu, you know.
But the funniest
special effects is definitely there for a reason.
The funniest shit in the movie is how, like, the stunt performances, the costumes are just too bulky, obviously. Like, they're not going to be able to do some fucking ninja shit. And if you're going to do it all practical, then, not to say that the movie is 100% practical, there are some CG effects, but just not, they're all for, like, really crazy, weird, esoteric shit that could not be done.
There's also some stop motion near the end, which is
that was
questionable.
Interesting. It looks like the stop motion in Star Wars, so, I mean, I don't think it's any worse than that.
No, but it's just, that doesn't age well.
No.
Unfortunately.
But the funniest shit in the movie is that the stunt work is clearly sometimes performed slow, and then the footage was sped up. Like, you can see in that scene where he's on the motorcycle, so Hakaider comes to Jesus Town, and basically an endless amount of stormtroopers are, like, attacking him. This is like a 10-minute action scene, and it's probably the best, like, it's kind of like the bulk of the movie, in a way. Is, like, you've got all these opening establishing scenes, which are cool in their own right, but they're mostly just, like, setting up who the characters are and what's going on with as little dialogue as possible and as much action as possible. But the central action scene is like Hakaider's driving into Jesus Town, all these stormtroopers are coming after him, and he just fucking murders them for like 10 straight minutes. There's a shot where like the motorcycle guys all like drive past him and then they have to turn around, and I could tell that like they are driving at like 20 miles an hour, but like it's sped up so that it's a quicker transition. Anytime one of them gets knocked off a bike, it is clearly a like crash test dummy.
Yes.
That is inside the suit, because you can see the legs like wobble and like the way that they fly. Like they made no attempt to make it look realistic. I don't think that was on anyone's priority list.
No.
But the funny thing about it is that most tokusatsu will try at least somewhat to cover that up with sound design. And this movie does not.
No, there's very little, like, hype music or anything.
Or even sound effects. Like, if you're watching, like, Samurai Sentai Shinkenger or something, like, you'll hear all this, like, whoosh, whoosh, and, like, and the theme song will play in the background every time there's a fucking major fight, and, like...
Like, the opening scene of Shinkenger is, like...
Is amazing.
The like... prime example of what you're talking about.
Like, because he's
covered the screen with like special effects and there's crazy sword slashes and the theme song
the sword he's using looks like a toy, but like the effects look legit.
Yeah,
like he hits someone with that toy and you're like, well, I don't care if it's a plastic toy, it killed that guy.
Yeah, that guy got fucked.
And like there's lots of like characters spinning around in a whole arc. This movie will have like someone like get knocked off a bike and it's clear that they're a test dummy, and the sound effect is like a dull thud, like as though there wasn't even ADR sound effects, but I know there are. But like there's one scene, for instance, where
it's like they ADR'd the actual hit from hitting the dummy.
There's one scene where he gets like hit with a rocket launcher and we see a huge explosion come out of a window with no sound effect. And it's one of those where they shoot it from 3 different angles, and only on the third does it have the explosion sound, which is odd because usually you'd think it would be the opposite. Like the first one would have the sound and then you just keep hearing that sound when you see the other two. In this, you're just like, oh, that was weird. Why was there no sound effect for the explosion, Or like scenes where like something blows up and it's just kind of like... poof. And you're like, oh, I get it.
It could use some more punchy effects for sure.
And also, there is no music in any of the action scenes.
No, there isn't.
Music only plays during, like, emotional and slow scenes.
Or, like, when he's on his bike going to someplace.
Yeah. It never plays during action scenes. So, like, literally all these dull thuds and stuff are, like, all you're hearing. And there's times where I thought that the final battle between Hakaider and Michael was definitely weakened by this. Because it's like a slow... And like they tried to make it as long as possible, and it's just 2 guys in suits fighting.
Yeah, the problem with the final fight is that it doesn't have any like sound effects. There's no music, and the choreography is incredibly basic and slow because they're 2 guys in like 50-pound suits that they can't move. So like what they do is that it's basically just like they'll punch one of them, they'll go flying, then they'll walk up to get punched again.
It just felt very stretched out, and like... Up until that point, the movie never felt that way because, again, the artful cinematography is what kept it engaging. Like, in spite of how cheesy the effects were, how lacking the sound effects were, the lack of music, like, even though I would constantly be like, oh, well, that was, like, kind of corny and undersold, but it would still be awesome.
Right.
Until the final battle where it was just like, oh, they just felt like this had to be 10 minutes, and you can't reach 10 minutes. Because you're just building up to their special attacks, basically.
Cool thing that they did with that, though, and we commented on this during the movie, is that as they're fighting this final battle, they're, like, breaking, like, walls and shit, and all the inside of all the walls are red. So as the fight goes on, it looks like there's blood splatter everywhere.
That was a genius effect. Because, they're both robots, so, like, there's no way for them to be, like, carving each other up. But, like, literally when you're just seeing the background, it looks like some kind of huge battle is taking place in here. And plus the red inside of the walls on the white walls just looks awesome.
Right.
Totally impractical. It makes no sense why they would be red, but it's cool as shit.
It's the rule of cool, the movie. It's fucking dope.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
So the plot, when it happens, it's kind of hilarious. Because up until this point, we just catch glimpses of, like, a resistance movement is coming into town. Hakaider's coming into, or Rizenmu is like fighting. Hakaider's coming into town. It takes about 40 minutes before Hakaider like makes it into Jesus Town and is like picked up by the resistance movement. Big exposition dump about like what they're doing, like why is there a resistance here, and then the resistance members, other than our main girl who has had like prophetic visions of a warrior coming to save her and therefore believes that like when she meets Hakaider, she's like, oh, this guy is the guy from my fucking visions.
Right.
So she's like, you're just like leaning over to the side, slowly disappearing off the camera.
I can't be a part of this anymore.
As because she thinks like Kikaider is the savior dude, she's like on his side immediately. Everyone else is kind of distrusting.
It's not even
of him.
on his side. She like instantly wants to fuck him.
Oh yeah, well everyone else is implying that she's like in love with him, and by the end it is strongly implied that she is a romantic interest, though there's no like actual romance,
chemistry,
which I'm glad.
There's no good. Like,
I'm glad that they never like have a cheesy makeout scene, and I kind of really like the fact. Okay, Hakaider has like 2 lines of dialogue in this movie.
Yeah.
And neither of them is to her at all. But the way that he just... It's clear that he considers her to be, like, a good person and not anybody else. And he's kind of adorable towards her. Like, he's usually in a movie like this, because he is a total badass. Like, he's silent, he destroys everything, he blows everything up. But he's, like, really nice when he's around her. Like, he's not, like, a hard ass.
The whole thing that they imply
he doesn't
in
try to
this
reject
scene
her or anything.
is that, like, you have these resistant fighters who are like, fuck the government, it sucks. And then Hakaider joins up with them for a while. And, like, this girl is like, yeah, you're great, we're gonna fucking wreck all this shit. And one of the guys is like, yeah, we're gonna fucking steal all their shit, it's gonna be ours. And, like, Hakaider gets pissed because, like, you're just as corrupt as they are.
Yeah.
And she's the only one who really isn't.
Yeah, they were, like, printing off all this money, I guess, so that, like, basically their plan was, once we overthrow the government, we are going to be rich, and we're going to be able to do everything, and Hakaider's like, you guys are fucked. Right at, like, so all we've had is, this is all one scene of about 7 or 8 minutes. Hakaider wakes up in the resistance movement, meets the girl, everyone jokes about how she's in love with them. They explain their purpose. They explain that they're going their intentions.
Very
and then the
basic
government
character introductions.
Yeah, and then like right at the moment where you're like, oh man, these guys are sleazeballs, a bunch of stormtroopers come in and just eradicate all of them.
Yeah, they immediately die.
Every single one of them is killed in like 1 minute, and it's great.
Yeah, I was just like, thank God, I don't want to be around these people for the rest of their runtime.
I think it was almost, I don't know if it was intended to be subversive or anything, but like, because you imagine that these guys are going to team up and there's going to be a big storm the gates and they're going to die one by one along the way.
Very typical.
None of that.
None of that happens.
They all just get mowed down, and then our girl takes a round to the gut. Hakaider gets like seemingly dead.
Yeah, that's when the 3-shot explosion happens. He gets blown out of the building, so he can't help anybody anymore because he's not there.
Yeah, she takes a bullet, and it's kind of unclear if she is or isn't dying for a while. But then she like takes Hakaider out to this beautiful like landscape area.
Which might have been a dream sequence, because she's had dream sequences, and all of a sudden they go from like the slums to this like beautiful like location, and it's just like, how did we get here?
It was because it's kind of implied early in the
here's
movie.
the thing though, before we even get to that, the weird thing about this transition is because everybody's died except for this girl, and so she runs up to the top of the building, and Hakaider's up there, and he gets blown out with a rocket launcher. So then it's just her and that one white guy who was part of it. They're the only two who are still alive. And Michael shows up with all the stormtroopers, and then they like start executing them, and then we cut.
Who Michael is, by the way? Like, Michael is the rival robot.
Oh yeah, there's like an anti-Hakaider robot just named Michael, and it's the funniest part of the whole movie. We have this slow pan shot of his introduction chasing this criminal guy. He's like, my name is Michael.
Yeah, we lost our shit, but then it became clear why he was Michael, because
then we found out about Jesus Town. It's like, oh, this is like a biblical thing, not just like a weird like dubbed, because we watched this dubbed, which we did not mention until right now.
The only way that any of you are going to be able to watch this is dubbed, unless you're better at finding shit than me, because I could not find a torrent, I could not find a stream, except for a YouTube upload with a hilarious title that was like free Hollywood movie,
free Hollywood science fiction film, Haiakder.
And the dub is bad, but there's like 14 lines in the entire film, you're not
okay.
worried about it. And the DVD sells for like $100 on like resale online.
Used
so
on Amazon.
Good luck.
Which, you know.
So yeah, we watched it dubbed. It really doesn't matter.
But
I mean,
at this
it's
point,
possible
we
that
thought
the sound
maybe it was
could
just
be
like a
different,
dub
though.
name. We thought he maybe had a normal like Japanese name.
Oh,
because this is the early '90s, and maybe they dubbed it to Michael. But it becomes clear later that no, there's a bunch of like biblical imagery going on.
And incidentally, the American name of this movie was Roboman Hakaider, right? I believe.
Yes.
So
what a downgrade from Mechanical Violator.
Mechanical Violator, which I really have to wonder if in the original Japanese if he refers to himself as the Violator, because towards the end there's a scene where he says something like, "I am the destroyer, I am the judge." And I was wondering if he originally said like, "I am the Violator, I am the judge," because it makes sense, because this movie is essentially just like libertarian propaganda. Like, the whole movie is just authoritative stuff is bad, destroy it.
Right.
This, like, everything is referenced, like, biblically, even though the movie has nothing to say about religion other than simply that it is an authoritative force.
I mean, the, like, final, like, vision the girl has is, like, because, like, in her dreams, Hakaider shows up as, like, this weird knight on a horse.
Yeah.
And he can, like, ignite things into flames, and, like, he burns a cross at the end, and it's just
Yeah.
like, just in case you weren't clear from Michael and Jesus Town, we're not a fan of Christianity at all.
Yeah, religion and just, like, the government as a whole are seen as a problem. And Hakaider is a guy who rides on a motorcycle, you know, and is a drifter.
The libertarian hero we all wish to be.
Right, and of course he is presented as, like, he's all black and the bad guys are all white. Similar to Kill La Kill's whole presentation of the same conflict. There's in Japanese folklore, the idea of the Oni, the demon, is, like, related to the proletariat. Like, when there's, like, rise up of the people, they are presented as, like, the Oni rising up from hell.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I think that has something to do with this. Don't quote me too much on this. I learned this from Charles Dunbar at a Kill La Kill panel once, 4 years ago, but he knows his shit. So
I wonder if the proletariat had any say in being compared to demons rising out of hell.
Well, I mean, I think that's what they called themselves, is they were like, "Oh, we're the Oni." Like, I don't know what era even this is relative to.
Every time you start talking about Japanese things, someone in the comments loses their shit.
Yeah, so. I know. So anyways,
we're calling you out before you even say it. It's there. I know it's there.
So Hakaider, like, the only real dialogue he has in the movie is when he sees people being, like, extra authoritarian, he's like, not okay with it.
Not on my watch, buddy.
And then he blows everything up.
He has a fucking sick gun.
Yes, his gun fires, like regular-sized bullets that have gigantically explosive...
Yeah, it's like the most powerful weapon in the movie.
Yeah, you compared it to the gun from Blame, which is definitely a good comparison.
Yeah, like
Jesus, fucking, there it goes.
That's what it
right
sounds
now.
like.
When it goes, I don't know if that picked up.
Yeah, there was a loud crash of thunder as we said that.
So,
we have better sound design than Hakaider now.
Yeah. Yeah, there's lots of fucking explosions in spite of how little sound effects there are for the explosions. And again, lots of trippy imagery, especially early into the movie. The more it develops a plot, the less, like, trippy and out there it gets, because you kind of know what's going on.
We know how we didn't watch the fan dub because we cringe. What if they, like, redid all the sound effects too?
Oh shit! What if the fan dub? There is a fan dub of this that we saw on, but I don't think it was in English. It was like a Spanish fan dub or something.
I mean, we wouldn't have missed anything.
Yeah.
Shit. Well, maybe someday I'll venture down this path again.
So what do you think of the robot designs overall?
They're pretty cool. I mean, they're not, like, super crazy over the top or anything, but, like, I really like the transformation sequence for Hakaider.
The transformation sequence is fucking awesome.
It was super sick. It's like the whole screen just shatters.
Yeah.
And then, like, we get, like, this inside view of, like, I guess his, like, robo organs and his robot heart beating, and then his, like, human hands are in view, and, like, these, like, fucking, like, veins go all the way down and, like, becomes Hakaider, and then the screen unshatters, and then there he is. It's fucking dope.
The overall sense, I would not at all be surprised if this movie was a visual influence on Guilty Gear. because Hakaider is Soul Bad Guy and Michael is Kai Kisk.
There's like, as soon as Michael
right down
showed
to the
up,
facial
I'm like,
expressions.
Kai Kisk for sure.
Because like Hakaider has like a permanent scowl.
He's
got
just
like and Michael has like a very clear expression, and it's it's obvious what they stand for.
Michael's color palette is almost like verbatim Kai's.
Yeah. And I would say that Hakaider as a design didn't particularly stand out to me. Like, I think he's fine for the movie. Michael was much more memorable. Mm-hmm. He's like someone I could see my brother having bought a toy of back in the day. And he's got this cool glowing hand effect, which, like, the cool thing about doing everything practical, and I really wish I lived in Japan so that when Toku shit comes out, the toys would be available for me to just know. Like, I don't even want them. I just want to know that they went all the way, because if it's all practical and they can employ all of it into the toys, like in like again in Sentai, like the characters literally just use toys to fight with, so that like there is no disconnect between what the kid is gonna buy and what is in the show. It is the same object, you know?
Just product placement.
And like in this movie, his hand like has it's like transparent, but it has like some kind of light inside of it, and it glows when he like he
impales people with it.
It's cool looking as fuck. And if there's a toy with like the light up glow hand, that would be awesome. Yeah, it is very similar to the Shining Finger. Same year or maybe the next year.
Did Hakaider just influence everything that's cheesy and great?
I think G Gundam started before Hakaider came out, but
God, G Gundam's the best.
There's a few cool moves. Hakaider secretly... Oh shit, the camera fucking just turned itself off. Hakaider has a special move where his arm can open up and he can put one of the bullets from his gun into like a secret gun in his arm.
Which is very convenient.
Yeah.
Thank God Michael decided to empty his gun out of bullets instead of just shooting him with the most powerful weapon in the entire fucking show.
I really like that idea though, because it's like... You know,
it was kind of in character for Michael.
It's like he has the gun. Like, Hakaider does not need to have a gun. He has the gun. It's the same gun. But by way of using a gun, he disguises the fact that he has this secret weapon. So, you know, Michael thinks he's disarmed him, and he's like, sucker, I fucking have the same exact gun, but it's in me.
Right.
I'm a big fan of arm guns in general.
Arm guns, there's not a lot to complain about with arm guns. They're usually the best.
You should watch Space Adventure Cobra. In that show, the main character has... He just pulls off... His arm is just a shell, and he just pulls it off, and he's got just like a straight metal pipe, but it's called the Psycho Gun, because he can control the bullets psychically.
Whoa!
And just like make them go wherever he wants. Yeah.
Is this a guy in a red coat, the main character?
Red jumpsuit, yeah.
That might be one of the influences for the original Devil May Cry.
Cobra's a like space adventure, so
I remember reading an interview with Hideki Kamiya, and he said Cobra was like one of his big influences for the design of Dante.
That is possible. He doesn't look much like Dante. I would say that Harlock looks more like Dante, but
maybe we're talking about something different, because it was just a text blurb. There was no accompanying images or anything. This is from years ago. But anyways, arm guns definitely a plus.
Yes.
Should be in everything.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to say about this movie. I mean, like, I feel as though it's weird, because when I think of the movie, I'm tempted to think of the most boring part of it, because that's the part where things were explained, and like when you try to
part at all.
Like if I try to describe the movie, it's hard to describe it in terms of the first 40 minutes, because it's just literally a bunch of cool looking action.
That's all you need to talk about, dude. Wasn't it fucking sick?
It was fucking
when the
sick.
Fucking like he's like driving towards Jesus Town, and this big giant fucking turret comes out of the wall and just starts shooting at him, and it's just like bouncing off, and then he takes out his little tiny handgun, and he's like, what's that gonna do? And then the entire fucking wall just caves in, perfectly timed, so you can just go right through, and it's like, yeah, get fucked. But then they use the try-harder bullets later, because they have a tank that hurts him.
Yes, the try-harder bullets. Yeah. He does get hurt. Yeah, what can and can't hurt Hakaider is pretty fucking arbitrary.
Yeah. It's kind of like the plot and like the tension of the scene decides what bullets affect him and not.
Again, nothing about this movie made any attempt to be a good movie. The point of it is to be an action spectacle with tokusatsu effects. And like, if you like action movies, but you don't care particularly about it being specifically tokusatsu, this might not even do anything for you. Like, you have to watch this with the mindset of, I love practical effects, I love cool costumes, I love just action for the sake of itself. And like, if that's you, then this movie is for you.
If you can still go back and watch Power Rangers and like you like the putty
I mean,
fights
we're talking
and
to
stuff,
Toku fans here,
right.
so like,
well, I'm just saying in general. Then like, and you like, all right. And if you like, if you still have a fond spot for like Flash cartoons where there was no substance other than just like how many guys can we punch in 5 minutes,
like
this is
old,
your movie. This is your fucking movie.
I grew up on the like Super Beast ones where it was just like a stick figure with like Wolverine claws just like tearing other stick figures.
I didn't even watch it. I watched Xiao Xiao a lot.
I don't know that one.
And it was just like series of like 8 or so movies. There's just one stick guy beating the shit out of people. Then obviously,
oh yeah, no, I've seen those.
Madness was good. So
I made a bunch of those actually. I would but not animations. I would just draw panel by panel stick figure comics in notebooks, but like the panels would be like this big, so I could fit as many different attacks on there as possible.
Sick.
A lot of fun. Kikaider's like that.
I mean, he's all black. He's basically a stick figure.
Yeah.
Like, what's the difference?
All right, well, that's about all we could possibly milk out of this. But yeah, I'm definitely curious to watch more Keita Amemiya shit since everyone seems to think it's the tits. And recommend us more Toku shit. If there is any Toku that you think has, like, I feel like with this we reach like bedrock of the point of Toku, but not necessarily like the unique weird details that would make them individually interesting. Not to say that this movie isn't weird as shit, because until the plot gets involved, it is weird as shit. But like, again, it's mostly the framing of shots and everything that makes it great. So I'm curious to see some more stuff that's like either uniquely bad or good for weird reasons, you know? So recommend us some shit like that, and we'll see you in the next one, whenever that may be. This is an irregular show. There are no dates, no times, no rules.
Nothing. None of that shit.
Because Hakaider would not stand for that.
No, he would not. We can't have any authoritarian scheduling in this.
Hell yeah.